Okay, starting chapter 13, page 133. "To think you've never been a husking bee," exclaimed Judith. "Why, they're more fun than all holidays put together. Just husking corn all the evening." It sounded to Kit like an odd sort of party. Her arms still ached from resting heavy ears from the stalks row after row, hour after hour. "Oh, it doesn't seem like work when everyone does it together. We all sing, Jeb Whitney brings his fiddle, and there's cake and apples and cider. Oh, I always think autumn is the very best time of the year. They say the crop is not too plentiful this year," Mercy put in slyly. "Could be that there won't be as many red ears as usual." Judith tossed her head. "I'll find one, never you fear," she said blithely. "I have my own methods." "Red ears, are they better than the others?" At Kit's innocent question her two cousins burst into peals of merriment. "You wait and see," advised Judith. "Come to think of it, I guess I'll make certain that William gets one too. Then you'll find out." And her own sudden suspicion, Kit blushed crimson. In a rare mood of intimacy, Judith linked arms with Kit as they set out along High Street to gather the last of the corn in the meadow. It was more than the sparkling September air that accounted for her high spirits. "I just feel it in my bones," she confided, "that something wonderful is going to happen tonight at the corn husking." Judith's excitement was contagious. Kit began to feel a tingle of anticipation, though she still couldn't see how anyone could make a festivity out of a hard, dusty work. It was the first party of any sort to which she had been invited in Wethersfield. The few young people she had come to know, the ones she had seen at Sabbath meeting and lecture day, would all be there. "I never knew you could predict the future," she laughed, "but I hope you're right." "I know I am," said Judith, "because this time I'm going to see to it that something happens. I've made up my mind." "You mean John Holbrook?" "Of course I mean John. You know how he is, Kit. So serious and shy. He'll never be able to find his tongue if I don't help him out." "But John is still a student." "I know. He hasn't any property like William, or any way to support me yet. That's why he doesn't speak. But I know how John feels, and I know how I feel. And why should we wait forever without even making plans?" "And what could ever be a better time than a husking bee?" "Judith," Kit ventured doubtfully, "do you really think—" "You'd better be thinking about your own affairs," laughed Judith. "William isn't like John. He's like me. When he's made up his mind, he isn't going to wait forever." Why did Judith have to remind her? Kit thought wryly. Ever since the day of William's house raising, when the neighbors had gathered together and, working from dawn to sunset, had raised a fine imposing frame and nailed the sturdy new clapboards in place, Kit had known that William was only waiting a propitious time to speak. She had long since decided what her answer would be. As William's wife she could come and go as she pleased. There would be no more endless drudgery, and she could snap her fingers at a woman like Goodwife Cuff. Besides, William admired her. In spite of the fact that he was often bewildered and scandalized, he was still as infatuated as he had been the first Sabbath morning. Then why did Judith's teasing always raise that cold little lump of foreboding? She glanced longingly toward the little house by Blackbird Pond and promised herself that she would steal a few moments on the way, but work as fast as she could. When she and Judith finished their task, there was time for only a flying visit. Prudence had been there, Hannah had told her, but had not dared to wait for a lesson. "If these old eyes of mine could make out the letters," Hannah regretted, "but actually the child doesn't seem to need much help. She's just hungry for more to read. Poor little mite. I keep hoping the goat's milk will put a little fat on her bones." Judith was out of sight when Kit started back along South Road, but to her surprise she glimpsed a familiar wide black hat in the distance and paused to wait as John Holbrook came loping along the road to catch up with her. "Dr. Bulkley sent me to find some skunk cabbage," he explained, waving a bunch of green. "'Tis a rare cure for asthma, he says. How do you come to be waking alone?" Judith went on ahead. She explained how he had hoped to meet Judith on the road. She explained how he hoped... "I stopped to see Hannah Tupper." She said the name deliberately and was worded by startled eyes. "The widow Tupper? Does your family know about that, Kit?" "Judith and Mercy know. Hannah is a good friend of mine. She is a Quaker." "Does that matter?" "Yes, I think it does," he said thoughtfully. "Not that I hold anything against the Quakers, but this was a woman has no proper reputation. She's been accused twice of practicing witchcraft." "That's just cruel gossip." Probably, but I'd hate to see it turned against you, too. You know, Kit, there are very few people here in town who still haven't forgotten the day you jumped into the river. If they found out that you're acquainted with a witch... John, how can you pay attention to anything so silly? Witchcraft isn't silly, Kit. Dr. Bulkley says... Oh, Dr. Bulkley says, retorted Kit. I'm tired of hearing what Dr. Bulkley says. Don't you ever think for yourself any more, John? At the hurt in his blue eyes, she was instantly contrite. Oh, I'm sorry, she said impulsively, laying a hand on his sleeve. I didn't mean that really, but since you've been studying with that man, you seem to have changed somehow. At once he forgave her. You don't know him as I do, he explained. Every day I realize how much more I've learned. But it's not just studies. We do change, Kit, in spite of ourselves. At least some of us do, he added with a flash of humor she had missed at him lately. I don't want to preach it to you, Kit. It's just that Quakers have a name for stirring up trouble, and it seems to me you managed to get it to enough yourself. I know, Kit agreed cheerfully, but it's Hannah who's sleeping to me to change. If you only knew her. John walked beside her, listening earnestly as she tried to make him understand the lonely woman in the meadow. Presently they reached the crossing at Broad Street, and where John would turn toward Dividend, and they stood for a moment, both unwilling to end this rare moment of comradeship. John took off his hat, leaned his elbows on the fence post, and stood gazing reflectively back at the meadows, the wind stirring his fair hair. All at once he turned and smiled at Kit with the same unexpected sweetness that had warmed her heart the first day in Saybrook Harbor. 5 months, he said, since we came here together on the Dolphin. Such high hopes we had, you and I. Turned out well for you, hasn't it, Kit? A fine big house going up, a good dependable fellow like William. I hope you will be very happy. Kit colored and looked down at the browning grass. She did not even want to talk about William. And you, John? She asked instead. Perhaps, he said, with a smile lingered at the corners of his mouth. We shall see. Sooner than you think, maybe, thought Kit. Are you going to the husking bee tonight? She inquired mischievously. I don't know, he considered. Will Mercy be there? Mercy? Why, no. I don't suppose she can be. It's more than a mile away. Then I think I shall spend the evening at your house instead. I seldom have a chance to talk to her. But they say a husking bee is such... Slowly she began to realize what he had said. John! Why should you want to talk to Mercy? His eyes twinkled. Why do you think I come so often? But we all thought, it has always been Mercy. It has always been Mercy from the beginning. Didn't you guess that? Oh, John, in a burst of incredulous joy, Kit flung both her arms rapturously about his neck. With a startled glance up the road, John tactfully freed himself. His very eyes were pink, but his eyes were shining down at her. I'm glad you approved, he said. Do you think I have a chance, Kit? A chance? Just you try, oh, John. I'm so happy I could dance a jig. I can't try yet, he reminded her soberly. I have nothing to offer, nothing at all. You'll have a church of your own some day. Only could Mercy... Do you think she can manage a minister's household? There are so many things Mercy can't do, John. That's point. On end of page 139.